the end of September. Down in the southern hemisphere, spring has definitely sprung, and my most warm perfumes, most of them at least, definitely kind of reflect that type of vibe. I want to start with something that I've been wearing all week, and this is, if I can find the label, this is from Miskeo. I've been wearing Feuille for all of this week and really enjoying its moist vegetal greenness. It's such an unusual green scent, and I love it because it's very different to a lot of green scents that I've been wearing. I also wore for a whole week during September the lovely Original Musk by Kiehl's. Now, I initially had thoughts about this perfume being more colder weather, maybe autumn, winter, but it really blooms in just a little bit of milder conditions. The florals really come out. The musk is always there, but the florals, jasmine really comes out and elevates that musk. It really balloons out on my skin when I'm wearing it, and I've kind of just really fallen for this musk. And one of the other perfumes to me is a real, if I'm going to pigeonhole any perfume into a season, for me, Le Jardin from Zara is a springtime perfume, beautifully constructed, classically inspired sheep perfume, and completely blown away by its quality. The other perfume that I wore for a whole week and I really wanted to focus on for this September review is Habit Rouge Prive, limited edition flanker to the very legendary Habit Rouge from Guerlain. I'm not sure if this is limited in terms of it's only going to be available for a short while or just limited distribution. I kind of really jumped on this after one sampling of it, which I really enjoyed, and now I definitely have no buyer's remorse for getting this, because I have to say that after wearing it for a week earlier this month, it's possible that I think I like this a little bit more than the original Habit Rouge EDT, and you all know how highly I regard that particular perfume. So, interesting thing about wearing this for 7 consecutive days is I noticed a couple of things that I hadn't noticed before on single wearing. So this is one of the good things that I've discovered this year, doing this, choosing one perfume to wear a whole week, obviously alternating it with other perfumes throughout the week, but wearing it on consecutive days. I suddenly realized, this perfume always had a Leathery accord running through it. It has, as a point of difference to the original, there's a gorgeous velvety iris. It's not even powdery, it's more velvety, if that makes any sense. But what I realized was that after the 3rd or 4th day of wearing this in a row, I started to smell this, and it kind of reminded me of something that I was already familiar with. And I realized that the dry down of Rouge Prive actually has some similarities to Chanel's Le Lion. And it's interesting that I picked that up. And what I pick up is there's a heavy dose of labdanum in this perfume. Whether it's an officially listed note or not, I'm not sure off the top of my head, but I definitely smell it, and I definitely made that connection with Le Lion. And it's interesting because I remember when Le Lion came out 4 years ago, quite a few people made a comparison with Guerlain's Shalimar, and if you know some of the background of the original Habit Rouge, Guerlain created that kind of as a masculine-inspired version of Shalimar. So I like the joining of the dots here. Either way, even though the dry down reminded me of Le Lion, they are both quite different perfumes. I just realized that what I liked about this perfume was the dry down, in particular that beautiful thick, dark labdanum note that sits there that kind of replaces the vanilla base of the original Habit Rouge. Anyway, I'm kind of enamored with Rouge Prive at the moment. At the moment, I have it slightly above the original. So let's see if that plays out. But this is, again, what happens when you spend more time with perfumes. After 2 or 3 wears, I enjoyed it, but I just wasn't thinking that this would ever surpass the original. And now that I'm more familiar with it, who knows? Who knows what will happen? Maybe I'll wear the original Habit Rouge and realise that, no, there's nothing that's going to pass that perfume. All right, so in September, I only added 1 bottle, and my last video was about this. I bought a replacement bottle for the Deal Fahrenheit that I had emptied a couple of months ago, so I'm glad that is back in my rotation. And the only thing I did want to mention for the month of September were a few, so I'm obviously rotating samples throughout the month as well, and there was a few standouts for me. I am really after reviewing Filter by Hiram Green, that is growing on me even more. I already liked it, but I realized that it's something that I want to keep wearing. I had worn a sample of Angelique Noir from Guerlain as well, and I suspect that at some point in the future I will have a bottle of that, as long as I don't discontinue it. The other 2 perfumes I enjoyed on my very first sampling were L'air de Rien from Miller Harris, as well as Rien Intense Incense from Etat Libre. So I won't talk about them too much because I just wore them the one time during the month, and my memory was that I enjoyed those first wears, so I'm not even going to try and go into what I was picking up, other than they were memorable, so memorable enough to mention here. One last thing to close out the month of September in perfume. Yesterday, I happened to have the day off, so I decided to go to my local large department store that has, all the brands, all the big designers, as well as some sort of high luxury niche perfumes. And I wanted to smell a few in particular. The first thing I wanted to smell was actually at the Guerlain counter again. I had done a video on the new Vetiver Parfum and Habit Rouge Parfum, but they had also released L'Homme Ideal Parfum, and I was interested in smelling that because I had not. And what I'm about to tell you is really just based on me sniffing in the store, so by no means is this comprehensive review or even really a proper first impressions, but I just wanted to let you know what I smelled and what I thought at the time. L'Homme Ideal Parfum, that whole line, I own the cologne, which I love and enjoy. I have done a review years ago of the Eau de Parfum, and I was a bit lukewarm on that perfume. I ended up selling that bottle that I had. So I was curious to see what the new Parfum smelled like, and I got to do a quick side-by-side with the original Eau de Toilette and they are quite different. The main thing that I picked up from the Parfum version was that even though there is still this almond theme running through the line, the Parfum lists the liqueur note of amaretto, which is an almond-based liqueur, for those who don't know. And instead of smelling that, or instead of being reminded of that particular note, the main thing I could smell was what to me seemed like a cherry note. And maybe that's part of the association with the amaretto liqueur, but I couldn't help thinking that I kind of wished that stuff like Tom Ford's Lost Cherry smelled like the opening of L'Homme Idéal Parfum. Now, to others, it might not smell like cherry at all, but all I could think about was a liqueured cherry in the opening. It wasn't enough to make me think, oh, I really want to get a sample of this and test it, or even want it that much. I was just curious to smell it, and they were my impressions. Now, the other two perfumes that I smelled, one was actually a recommendation by one of my subscribers. It was on my, the comment was on my Amouage Epic Woman video, and they had suggested to smell something from the Armani Prive line, and this is Sable Nuit, and basically because the suggestion was if I liked Epic Woman, I could possibly like this perfume. And I have to say, I was really impressed with it. And I couldn't help, obviously, in my mind, make the comparison with what Epic Woman is and what Sable Nuit was. Essentially, if you're a fan of Amouage Epic Woman, but maybe you find it perhaps a bit too spicy, and possibly like you want it to be a little bit, just a touch sweeter and more resinous in the base, then I definitely recommend smelling Sable Nuit. I noticed that one, the Armani one, was a bit smoother, mainly because of any spices being absent or toned down. It kind of got a little bit more ambery in the base, but the frankincense note on Epic Woman and this particular perfume are top notch. So if you're a fan of frankincense, definitely have a smell of Sable Nuit from Armani Prive line. The final perfume I want to talk about that's already getting a little bit of hype is Tom Ford's Black Lacquer. And I have to say, based on my very limited smelling experience, disappointingly, my Tom Ford counter does not do samples. If I want to get anything resembling a sample, I'll have to buy a 4ml mini bottle, unfortunately. So I have to go on what I smelled on the blotter. I sprayed some on my skin. And I have to say, to my nose, what I was smelling, this is probably the best, at least private label release that I've smelled in years. I haven't smelled anything I've liked from Tom Ford since they released, from the time they released Vanille Fatale and Fucking Fabulous and all of those perfumes, Lost Cherry, like they just didn't do anything for me. But Black Lacquer got me a little bit excited. There is a lovely kind of varnished ebony wood that might remind you a little bit of original vintage 2007 Oud Wood, like that particular accord. And there is an inkiness about Black Lacquer as well, which kind of sets it apart. It's probably, I would say, it's probably maybe more challenging to wear for your lay frag head compared to Oud Wood even. But I like that Tom Ford's taken this direction with this particular perfume. Whatever you think of the brand as a whole, I'm kind of happy to see that they've brought this out, and it's definitely worth sampling if dark, mysterious, depressing woods interest you. So that was my September. I smelled quite a bit. My most worn, my favourite samples, and just a bit of notable perfumes that I smelled in the department store. So I hope you enjoyed that, and everyone has had a great September. And I'll see you soon for the next video. Bye for now.